Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
I start the database now. Let me start the database. So you are able to see my screen, right? I do see your screen. Then once you can basic and start the database. So like in the mole, right? It's not smooth. The mole. Mule is, we developed the Mule application. Suppose Mole application. And Mole application is talking to JMS. Publishing message to JMS. And the same Mole application is connecting to database. Same Mule application has connectivity to VM. The same Mule application is sending some message to external HTTP application or listening HTTP client. Right. So to communicate to this external system, Mule application required some libraries. So libraries is a software file. So to talk to database, it requires database library. To talk to JMS, it requires JMS library. To talk to HTTP server, it requires HTTP library. To talk to VM, it requires VM library. Right. Yeah, so these files we call as a technically dependencies. Why you call it dependencies? Because your Mule application is dependent on this library. Got it? These libraries are not there. No, your Mule application is not able to talk to any of the systems. Okay, these dependencies are in as a jar files actually. Every dependency is jar file. Jar file is an extension of a dependency. Like a database is a database jar file, is JMS jar file, JMR file. Right. So these jar files are required to run your Mule application. So far, so good. Yep, then the second part is where these jar files exist. Are we going to store all the jar files in Mule application? Mule application in sense by developing. For example, in your Anypoint Studio. This is Anypoint Studio. One small basic and we move to the database. Okay. The basic is like Mule application has dependencies. Right, that we discussed. Right. That's right. And all of these library dependencies are jar files. Yeah. You're asking some questions. Yeah, and the jar files usually are what based on Java. Okay. So now the question is if you are developing a Mule application. Right? Now you are in the development stage. Yeah. So what happens is when you develop Mule application, you need to build the Mule application. Yeah. You have the term build. Build here. Okay, one moment. So build means you're like a run. It's like a build. Build like means run. Yeah. So build means what is the application. So what the application is doing is it will compile all the source code. Yeah, okay. Compile all the source code and get all the dependencies. And it will package the application as a deployable artifact. Okay, it adds all the dependencies and it packages that one. Okay. So this package I can deploy to the Mule server. Right. The application we need to make this application as a deployable artifact. So that process is called build process. So build process. So once we develop the application, yeah. You're saying that we have to make the application. You have to use a build process to build the application. And when it's built, it becomes what? What do you say? Say it again, one more time. Deployable artifact. Deployable artifact means that is the package we can. Mule server can accept that package. Right. So how the Mule applications are built are using a tool called Maven. Maven is the tool is used to build the Mule applications. Build means what's the process in the build. What's the process in the build is we need to add all the dependencies to the job to the Mule application. We need to manage the dependencies. What are dependencies? Dependencies means the library files which are required to talk to the external systems. Right. If these dependencies are missing, Mule can't be able to talk to that system. So we need to add all these required job files and we need to package that Mule application. Then only the Mule application will run in the server. If the dependency is not added to the package, no, the Mule can't talk to that server. It won't be able to run. Yeah. So let me, 1 second. This thing gets into your head because it really is very important to understand what's happening behind the scenes. And that's really what I really like about you, that you put all the dots together. So for Mule application, when you have a Mule application, you need to build, right? Yeah, and when in that build process, it means that the application will use a Maven to build all the dependencies. Write all the library files the application needs. So that this will become a deployable. What do you call that artifact? Exactly, yeah. For the Mule server to run. For Mule server, right, to execute this application. Correct. Got it. This one is comfortable to design and write. So that is not suitable. Let's see. This is not proper. Okay, that's it. So now we see the Maven, how Maven works. Maven has one file called POMXMO file. POM stands for Project Object Model. POMX file. Every Mule application you create, that is a Maven-based application. And it comes with the POMXMO file if you see any Mule application. Unfortunately, this is a different machine. I need to open the Mule application again. One moment. Okay, it takes a little time. So every Mule application ships with the POMXMO file. Okay, POMXMO file is very important file you need to understand. So all basic CI/CD process, all automated deployments, all based on the POMXMO file. That is a core part. You know you need to have good understanding about the POMXMO file. Now what this POML file contains? It's basically Excel file. It contains the dependencies information basically. I will show you the POMXML file. Even if you have any project element, you can see the POMXML file. Yeah, I'm looking right now actually. If you open, there is some section called dependencies. Okay. If you open a POMXML file for the stage project, what you build, right? What you publish and consume the message from the Axiom, right? Okay, if you open the POMXML file of that project, you can able to see the Axiom 2 dependencies. So 1, 2, 3, this one I'm looking, it has a 4 dependencies. One is HTTP dependency. Because you have HTTP, listen also, right? There was HTTP dependencies is there. So I couldn't tell what dependency is for, but all I can tell is that it has the 4 dependencies. Yeah? Let me add my. Oh, this one has. Oh, you're right. Now I see it. I open it, one of the dependencies, and it says that the Mule HTTP connector. So you are using HTTP listener, HTTP something. HTTP dependency is created. Okay, I see now. So I have to expand. No, you got to doubt. In the POMXML file. In the POMXML file, we define the dependencies. Yeah, this one also dependency. This means this jar file is required to run this project. That's what you're telling in the dependency. So then, where actually the physical jar file exists. Got. So in the dependency information, you are able to see the 3 fields. One is artifact ID, group ID and version. That's right. Artifact ID, group ID and version. So group ID is like from which company? From which company, or I don't know from which department this jar file is generated. Who is giving this jar file? From which company and which department inside that company? So you can find Mule connector, something like that. I see org mule connector, one of them. The other one called org Apache ActiveQ. But that jar file is given by Apache. Right? So group ID defines from which company group that jar file is provided. And artifact ID defines the actual name of the jar file. Oh, so the group ID is the company who provided the library. Library the company, and inside the company, if any department is there. See if you find org mule inside the mule company. The connectors department is giving this library file. So if it says org mule connectors, yeah? Right. So it means that in the mule company, the connectors group is there internally. Connectors department. That department is providing this jar file. Okay, I see, got it. I see org Apache ActiveQ. That means ActiveQ department provided this. Yeah. Oh, so that is a group ID. Artifact ID is the actual name of the jar file. Oh. And version is which version of jar file it is. It is not a version. Okay, right. Even if we are building the mule application, that is also, on top of our mule POM XML file, you can see group ID, artifact ID. You can mention. If you go top of the top 3 line slide, you can find the group ID, artifact ID. So that means if you're developing this component, whatever mule component you're developing company, you need to give your company name over here. To which company you're developing this component. Oh, right. Say that one more time. So if you're developing what? See if you're in your POM X1, right? Let me okay one thing. So I understand that the library we're using, we can tell who developed and who provided what department. That provided that. Yeah. So when you're doing a project for your company, do you? We don't, okay? So library files or jar files or dependencies. It's enterprise-wise. It's not something that I or you develop. Yeah. It's not right. Yeah, sure. But we can also develop our applications. Like, you can develop this application and internally you can use this dependency to the other applications. Yeah, so I understand that. So I know that we can develop mule applications. Yeah, but normally the API developer guy or mule developer person, they don't develop a library. We don't develop a library. We use it. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. But you can develop one application and you can use your application as a dependent to that application. That's right. That's right. In that case, you need to tell the group ID, artifact ID of your application. Right for that. You need to mention that on the top of the permit XML file, there are fields called group ID, artifact ID, version, right? You need to mention over there. Okay, so that is one part. And second most important part is where actually these jar files exist when you are developing the application. So you open your brand new laptop. You just purchase a laptop, brand new laptop. You just install a mole. Nothing is there in the laptop. It's a blank laptop. Now you started developing the mule application. Then you need the jar file, right? You need the HTTP jar file. HTTP. Then how you get those jar files? Right? That's the question. Yeah. For Maven. Sec. For Maven, right. This is not working. Maven uses one central repository in the cloud. Internet. There is a repository. So there is a repository in the internet. It contains all the jar files. It is called Maven repo. This information is also there in your formatted XML file. So first time you develop application, you develop Mule application in any point studio and you ran the Mule application first time, assume. It is a Mule application and you run the Mule application. Once you run the Mule application, what happens is it sees the formatted XML file. In the formatted XML file, you define the dependencies. Okay, these are the dependencies required to run the Mule application. It sees those dependencies available in your local repository or not. In your machine, there is some local repository. Okay. You see the local repository. Is actual local repository exist or not? If it exists, the dependencies in the local repository exist or not? If there is no local repository, there is no dependencies. What happens is it downloads the required jar files from Maven repository and stores those jar files in a local repository. Then your Mule application will point the jar files in the local repository. Does it do this automatically or you have to say download it from the repository? No, automatically. It's first time only. For example, second time you run the application, what happens? It checks the local repository. The jar files exist in the repository. It won't contact the Mule Center repository. Yeah. So what I was thinking is that if you end up using another library that you may need for your application, yeah? Do you have to say like download that for the Maven? Exactly. Download from Maven. Or does it do automatically or the application or the Mule will do automatically? Once you know that you don't have the library, yeah, look, does it do? Does it go out there on the internet and get it there from the Maven? Yes, automatically. You need not do anything. Just to mention that form of XML file, the dependency section, that's it. That's it, alright. It sees the local repository. If not available, it downloads that jar file from Maven repository. Nice that moment. If you don't have internet, your build will fail. Okay, because internet is required to download, right? So, in the Windows machine, if you want to see the local repository, then you can see over here. Go to Windows. There is a folder called Users. You are using Windows machine. Yeah, I'm using Windows machine, right? You can find the users folder in the C drive. Yeah, I think I can do it. So C drive users. In that you can find something like Adam with your name, one username. You can see one folder, right? Yeah. Okay, if you go inside that folder, you can find something like ME2 folder. Is there? If you go inside the M2 folder, you can find something called repository. That's right. Okay, this is called your local repository. All your jar files stored in this local repository. For example, if you have some mule argumule, argumule. I see a lot for J. Yeah, mule. This argumule. I have a question. This is not related to this, but a few months ago, 4 months ago, there was some kind of vulnerability. Yes, it's up in the. Yeah. So at the time we have to upgrade to the latest and all that stuff. Correct. So the question is that now that I just don't because I'm using the work laptop. I don't want to create some kind of vulnerability. So how do I know that my log for J is the latest? So you can see you need to make sure the log for J is latest, right? Yeah, how can I make sure that? Right now I can see that if I, under repository it has a log for J. And the log for J, when I open it, says 1.22. Let me check. I can go to the Maven repository. This is a Maven repository. The Maven repository. Let me check the log for J, okay. Sorry. So this log for J is Feb. Just 2 months back. Yeah. Version of log for J. It is 2. Is the right one. You're seeing. No, I have a 1.2. See, it has 2 vulnerabilities. It has 3 vulnerabilities. Some you're seeing right here. Log for J-core library. There are some wonderful defense over here. If you don't want these vulnerabilities, you need to make sure your version is this one, 2. That you can upload in .xml file also. So again, you can update. See these 2 log for J versions, right? C2 to 17 and to 71 don't have any vulnerabilities. Right. So in your .xml file, you can find log for J dependency. Right. Are you able to see? Let me see. Let me open my .xml file 1 sec. To JMS. Where are you seeing the log for J version, Adam? In the folder repository, if you go repository folder. Okay, there it doesn't work because maybe you are using the machine quite wrong. Let me see my repository. If you go back to repository, go to repository one more time. Go to the repository folder. And then you see log for J. Directly can find log for J from here. Yeah, there's a folder called log for J. I saw it there. Right there in the middle. In the middle. So open. Open the app. My log4j is not upgraded. My also older version 1.27. I have a 2. The top one? What's the log4j core? For the implementation. One set. What's this log4j? This is a 2018 version. Mine is the top one. I know that's what I have. Sec. Let me see this work. That is not what you see. Yeah, I used to do this in my work, where I used to go Apache website. Don't worry. If you go to this version, that is not valid. It's Apache logging log4j. Let me go to the org once in my repository. Where is the org man? Apache logging for J. And inside the log4j code. So currently the latest log4j code. This is the one we are using. Don't worry on that. Alright, let me go there. Go to this folder. I want to double check that. So under repository. It's org right here. Oh. Log. Logging log4j and log4j code. And then And then you can find C-like versions right 2.17. The latest versions only right. So this is we downloaded in just 1st of this Jan. This one, log4j into core version. I think we're good. I have a 2. This laptop I didn't use actually. Today, due to internet issue, I'm using this laptop. So maybe this housing some older versions, okay? So don't worry on that. You can remove that folder if you want, if you don't want. If you have any doubt in that, you can remove that older version. Log4j file, you mean like using? Like in here 2.5, you can delete that. You can delete that. See if any of your older application using the job file. They won't work. Because they're dependent on the job file, right? So they won't work. Okay, hope you got some idea about this thing now. Yeah, I do. I do so. You're saying here is a safe to delete all the files. Yeah, I don't know how critical your applications are. If you delete your application, don't blame me. I think it's okay. I have the latest one. That should be good. Alright, we can continue. Thank you. Yeah, so these are the dependency job files. See in my new lab, AnyPoint Studio. I have 10 applications, right? 10 to 12 applications. Maybe here I have 6 applications. So all the applications we use the job files to local repository. You don't need to have a separate set of job files for each application. Then you can reuse those job files And when building, they get that job file from this local repository and they bundle that and they may package into a packageable, deployable artifact. So those are all things done by this Mabel. Right. So see this. Mabel has the name of this job file. The name of the project is this project. And I can mention some properties, some repositories. This is any point repository. Okay, so that's about the Mabel. And going forward, we see when deployment cease. We deploy to the Mabel, then you understand completely about Mabel. So you hope you got some basic idea about the Mabel, right? Yeah, I do. It's the one that before the Mule application to work, like when we say run application. When the project before it does everything is the one that makes sure that we have all the dependencies. And so that the application can run successfully. If you don't have all those libraries, all those dependencies, nothing's going to work. So that's why we need a Mabel. Fantastic, Adam, you're fantastic. Good understanding. Thank you. I appreciate you. Next thing is to let me do a simple application. Mule project. Let me configure one simple Mule application to talk to database. You can show my code. So I'm configuring some path like /db. And I want to query the database and get some information from the database. For that, we have a database connector. Go to this component file and type database. So if you type database, you can find all the database related connectors. A bunch of connectors to get, and so based on your operation, you need to use that connector. If you want to just query the database and get the records, you use the select connector. If you want to insert the insert you want to delete bulk, insert bulk. There are different for each operation. That's right. So I want to just query the database. For that, I'm using the select component. Database into configure the database, but tell where actually your database is located. So connector configuration, and we need to select the what database you are connecting to. There'll be Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft MySQL Oracle. These are, some databases most people use. If you want to use the Postgres or any other database, you need to select the generic connection. Generic connection for any other kind of IBM DB2 or Postgres. There are several databases out there, right? Okay, if you don't find the database on the list, you need to use the generic connection. Okay, so I'm using MySQL. So I'm selecting the MySQL connection. Like I said, it requires library to talk to the database, right? Just now we discussed that. That's right. So we need to add the libraries. So library, I can configure it. And here are 3 things you can. If you already has library included in the any point, you can use add recommend libraries. Studio also added. If a jar file is available in your local machine, in your C drive or D drive, any folder jar file is available. You can use local file. You can add it yesterday. We add the jar file using local file. You remember? Yeah, I do. Yesterday also, James. We require the jar file, the library file. So we go to the IBM to download folder and we added the jar file, right? That's right. That's right. I remember that ours we can add the Maven dependence. It retrieves from the Maven server Maven repository. So let me add from Maven repository. So, but what is MySQL? I added the library file required. And next I need to view the where the database is running, in which host it is running. So in my machine locally, it is running for local host. If it is running a network, you need to give the IP address. And 336. Let me connect for a moment. What's that? Most people like pinch. So I have databases in my MySQL. I usually use the database for support for new applications. And there is some. It is a table. So I guess some employees 1 sec. Adam, you have any database installed on your machine? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't. Okay. You can install or you can use the cloud database also in the cloud. You can have a little. MySQL is available on the cloud. Is that right? That would be nice. You could show me. This one site called Cloud Clusters, but is free. You can use for 1 week and you need to receive a different email if you want to use it. Cloud Clusters. Cloud Clusters. Even you can use this Amazon RDS also. That is also good. But sometimes it is getting some issue for me. Go to Cloud Cluster. You can register yourself. I can create some MySQL database. Okay. And do you think that's valid for a week? Yeah, that's valid for a week, and if you need to register again with a different email ID. Okay, but you will be lost the data. Anyway, we are using for testing purposes. Also, that is fine. Okay. Yeah. Or if I am thinking, maybe I don't know. Maybe I need to install. I have some database like I can connect to my work. And I think it might be. What I'm thinking it might be is that I create the, maybe I don't know, maybe I install a, what is that called? MySQL, right? Yeah, if you have any restrictions to connect to what database. In that case, you can use a cloud database. If you don't have any restriction, okay, that's fine. Cloud One is a perfect solution, but I hate that every week we have to create a new account. Otherwise, we need to pay that unnecessarily. We need to let me see what is the data per month you can take it. If it is cheaper, okay, I don't know. I need to check the commercial value of the database. If it is minimal, then take that license and use for training purposes the minimum that is available, right? See some billing? Let me see. You have some databases or Oracle. You have different databases available. Okay, wow, nice. MySQL. You can create any database. Let me see the billing, how they bill. I don't know, they lost payment. I need to check. Oh, see the billing, and if it is cheaper, then take that. And in that, I can create any table like Oracle SQL. MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, SQL Server. Most of my database are SQL, some Oracle. But for this exercise, if I could do SQL or MySQL is the same, but that would be nice. Alright, so I'll look into this and find out. Okay, if not, go to practice. Take 1 week and practice 1 week. Okay, that's done. Because only you need to have one time. Afterwards, everything is the same. Nothing special in this. Yeah. For now, I'm using a HTTP browser. The browser is not able to render that data. Yeah, therefore, what I'm doing is I'm transforming the information that is coming from the database into the JSON format. The transform is just a component. So what I'm doing is in this transform is just a component. 1 sec. This machine is quite slow. Therefore, I stopped using this machine due to internet issue. So I'm changing to JSON and what I need to transform the payload right. The payload that is coming from the database. So I transform to JSON and that JSON I'm writing to my HTTP client. Right? So let me quickly run this thing. It's deployed, so let me try. Meanwhile, I could have opened the Postman. That's post postator if given path as DB. And I will try to get the information. So I got the employee records as a JSON, right? So these are the records actually in the database, right? So these are got a JSON. You don't want to get all the records. You want to, you want to pass a parameter over here. You want some parameterized records. So with that you could use a word class, right? Where close. Yes, exactly. So what happens is from the client, I will pass the name which I want to see. So I want to only that. So for that I want to configure my query with a weird class. So what's that employee? I will take employee name. Where MP name is equal to. I'm doing like some placeholder MP name. See, this is some sort of place where this is not actually. It doesn't exist here. That's right. So okay. So there is something quite input parameters you can find over here, right? So you need to map the exact name to this parameter in this section. So I come over here. I open one bracket. And for this employee name, what I'm mapping is attributes. Attributes query params. Some MP name. Right. Yeah. So now, saving it. So it started. And this time I want this side. Okay, I don't want any other employee. So what I'm doing is the query parameter. MP name equals equal to. And if I send it, I'll get only that record, right? Nice. Because from database, it's based on the where class. Yep. Alright. So similarly, if you want to insert also, the query is same insert. But where are fields you want to insert, right? That you can mention over here. And in the input parameters, you need to mention those inputs. You can create a more input parameters. And if you do that, do you have to create another places or you can do inside our prices? You have to say same places only if you have so. Say that for example. Say that for example like employee ID if I want to. Yeah. Yeah, for input primary if I want to do. If I go by employee ID. Employee. We want to be based on these two things. For example, no. Okay, no. No, just employee ID. Employee ID, okay. In this case, okay, I hear a suggestion. We can say, for example, you can search either using employee name or employee ID. Either with the employee name or employee ID. Okay, then how do you write the query for that? So what I'm going to imply here? Where in plain name. Okay. So what I was thinking is that we will have a one for employee name and another one called employee ID. Yes, in the database IDPC, there is an employee number is there. Yeah. An employee name is there, right? Yeah, so if you want to retrieve the employee based on employee number and employee name, in that case where the name is equal to name and emp underscore number is equal to some colon. Yeah. The problem with this is that is expecting two values. Exactly, yes. But if we give them a choice for the customers, hey, you can either search employee name or you can search the employee ID. So we're employee, okay, I see. So what I was thinking is that the word cause. Yeah, for the cause. You have a column name, right? We want to either the column name to say either on plain name or employee ID. So I don't know what I'm asking if it's double. But yeah, it's double. See from the input, right? We want what you're getting. You are giving employee name or employee ID. Sometimes you give employee name and sometimes you give employee ID. That's right. Okay, let me do that one. You will understand the two. One more concept calls the same time. Okay, there is something called choice. Choice, I got it. Okay, choice, we need to do the condition over here. When condition means when we require to take this path and when we require take this path. That's right. So when I'm doing is attributes. Attributes query param emblem not equal to null. If we employee name not equal to null, if employee name is given, it will take this path. Okay. So I'll take one more part, something like add. You want to do another choice. One. Now I want one moment. I think you put the choice right. Before the select, yeah. Okay, now something. Attribute is param semtem not equal to null. Sorry, okay. Copy this thing for this branch. And number not equal to null. Okay, and for this. Yeah, it needs to come out based on the employee name only. Oh. And I configure one more database component. Database select. This logger is no longer equal actually. Loggers are not required as of now. So in this, the same database configuration. And the query is also almost the same. Just I will change the where class only. Okay. Very empty underscore. Let me see the database column name or else yeah. emp underscore and alright, okay. em underscore. And all this for a new. And map right. Open parenthesis. Attributes that looks good. Putting some empty logger. Oh yeah, the last. So let me see. This is the point. Yeah, it is deployed. Now, yeah, it's not a private deploying. Yes, it is deployed now. If I give you employee name, yeah, like sorry, it will. Return self start from employee. With parameter rename name. Employee underscore name. Yes, you have to say employee underscore name. Let me see what. Employee. I think that's fine, yeah. I think here is fine. This thing I need to map like this, right? Yeah. This thing has to match because this will go is right. So, even at the end. Yeah, here also. Here, you're right. It's right. Only this one has to match with this one. That is not a problem. Once. Yeah, it started. Now, if I give you this message, I got size right. And instead of him, then you say equal to 1. This one. 1868, something like this, okay? Is equal to 868. I got that one. Right, nice. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.